I have served as the town administrator for Glenfield, Virginia for 9 years. It is a small community of about 6,000 people, nestled in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, the kind of place people come to escape from the world. The biggest concerns here are usually potholes and zoning disputes. I took this job after burning out from a more demanding career in city government, and I have never regretted it. My name is Colin Price. I am 41 years old. I live alone in a small house on the edge of town, divorced for 5 years with no children. I know everyone in Glenfield by name. I attend every town council meeting. I have made peace with a simple life. What I am about to describe happened 3 weeks ago, and I still do not understand it. I am sharing this account because I need someone else to know, someone outside of Glenfield, someone who might be able to explain what happened to my town. It was a Tuesday morning, around 7, and I was drinking coffee in my kitchen when my phone buzzed with an emergency alert. I assumed it was a weather warning or an Amber Alert, the usual notifications that come through the emergency broadcast system. But when I looked at the screen, I felt a chill run down my spine. The alert was an official evacuation order for Glenfield and the surrounding area. It used proper emergency management formatting and language, citing an imminent threat to public safety. Residents were instructed to leave immediately, to take only essential belongings, and to proceed to evacuation centers in neighboring counties. What made my blood run cold was the timestamp on the alert. It was dated for the following day, Wednesday. The alert had been issued from tomorrow. I assumed it was a glitch at first, some kind of scheduling error in the emergency broadcast system. Alerts are sometimes prepared in advance and set to deploy at specific times. Someone must have made a mistake with the date. But when I tried to dismiss the notification, it would not clear from my screen. It sat there, that wrong date staring at me, impossible and undeniable. I rushed to the town hall, where I found my small staff already gathered, all of them holding their phones with the same confused expressions. Everyone in Glenfield had received the alert. The phones at town hall were ringing constantly, residents demanding to know what was happening, why they were being told to evacuate, what threat could possibly require them to abandon their homes. I contacted the County Emergency Management Office, but they had no record of issuing any alert. I called the State Emergency Services, and they said the same thing. No evacuation order had been authorized for Glenfield. No threat had been identified. As far as the official systems were concerned, the alert did not exist. And yet everyone had received it. It was on their phones, their televisions, their radios. The digital sign outside the post office displayed it on a loop. It was everywhere, and no one could explain where it had come from or how it had been sent. The sheriff, a practical man named Howard Tate, who had served the community for 20 years, suggested we treat it as a hoax. Someone with technical knowledge must have spoofed the emergency broadcast system, he reasoned. A prank in poor taste, but nothing to panic about. He would investigate, find the responsible party, and they would face charges for misuse of the emergency alert system. I wanted to believe that explanation. I tried to believe it, but something about the alert nagged at me, a wrongness I could not articulate. The date was not just incorrect, it felt intentional, like a warning rather than an error. That evening, I returned home after a long day of fielding calls and trying to reassure anxious residents. The alert was still on my phone, still undismissible, that impossible date glowing on my screen. I had stopped looking at it, but I could not stop thinking about it. Around 8 that night, I noticed the first strange thing. The birds had stopped singing. My property borders a patch of forest, and the evening chorus of birdsong had been a constant companion since I moved to Glenfield. But that night, the woods were silent. Not quiet, but utterly without sound, as though every living thing had fled or gone into hiding. I stepped out onto my back porch and listened. Nothing. Not a cricket, not a frog, not the rustle of squirrels in the underbrush. Just dead silence and the faint whisper of wind through empty branches. I told myself it meant nothing. Animals behave strangely sometimes. A predator might be moving through the area. A bear or a mountain lion. Something that made the smaller creatures go quiet. But I went back inside and locked my doors. Something I rarely bothered to do in Glenfield. I woke on Wednesday morning, the date that had been stamped on the alert. I checked my phone immediately, half expecting the notification to have vanished now that the impossible timestamp had become the present. But it was still there, still displaying the previous day as its origin, still warning of an imminent threat. I drove into town and found Glenfield looking normal at first glance. People were going about their business, opening shops, walking dogs, living their ordinary lives. But as I looked closer, I noticed small things that seemed wrong. The streets were emptier than usual. Not dramatically so, but enough to notice. Several businesses that should have been open were closed, their owners nowhere to be found. The parking lot at the grocery store, usually full by mid-morning, held only a handful of cars. I stopped at the diner for breakfast and found it nearly deserted. The waitress, a woman named Phyllis, who had worked there for as long as anyone could remember, served me with trembling hands. When I asked if she was all right, she leaned close and whispered that she was leaving that afternoon. Her sister lived 3 counties over, and she was going to stay with her for a while. When I asked why, Phyllis just shook her head. "Something is wrong here," she said. "Can you not feel it? Something is coming." That alert was not a mistake. She would not say anything more. Throughout the day, I watched as more residents quietly left Glenfield. Not in a panic, not in a rush, but with a calm determination that was somehow more unsettling than chaos would have been. They loaded cars with belongings, locked up their houses, and drove away without looking back. By Wednesday evening, I estimated that nearly a third of the town's population had departed. Those who remained seemed to fall into 2 categories. Some, like Sheriff Tate, insisted that nothing was wrong and refused to be driven from their homes by a fake alert. Others, like myself, stayed because we felt a responsibility to the town, a need to understand what was happening before we could abandon the people counting on us. I called an emergency town council meeting for that night. Only 3 of the 7 council members showed up. The others had already left or could not be reached. Those who attended sat in the conference room of Town Hall, looking at each other with hollow eyes, none of us willing to say out loud what we were all thinking. The alert had been right. Something was coming, and we had no idea what it was or how to stop it. The hours after the meeting were the longest of my life. I stayed at town hall, unable to go home, unable to sleep, waiting for something to happen. Sheriff Tate kept a patrol car circling the town, checking in every hour with nothing to report. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. That same dead silence I had noticed in my backyard now spreading across all of Glenfield. Around 11 that night, the power went out. Not just in town hall, but across the entire town. I looked out the window and saw nothing but darkness, every streetlight extinguished, every building gone black. The only light came from the stars overhead and the faint glow of cell phone screens as people checked to see what had happened. My phone still showed the alert, still showed that wrong date. And now, in the darkness, the screen seemed brighter than it should have been, the words almost pulsing with urgency. I tried calling the power company, but the call would not connect. I tried calling Sheriff Tate, but got only static. I tried calling anyone, my staff, the council members who had attended the meeting, random numbers from my contact list. Nothing worked. The phones could receive, but they could not send. I was trapped in the dark, cut off from everyone, alone with an alert that should not exist. The sound began around midnight. It started low, almost below the threshold of hearing, a vibration that I felt in my chest before I recognized it as sound. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, from the ground beneath my feet, from the walls around me, from the sky above. It was not a natural sound, not thunder, not wind, not any animal I could identify. It was something else, something that resonated at a frequency that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. It rose and fell in waves, growing louder with each cycle until it filled the world and drowned out everything else. I pressed my hands over my ears, but it made no difference. The sound was not entering through my ears. It was entering through my bones, through my skin, through every part of me at once. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it stopped. The silence that followed was absolute. I stood in the darkness of town hall, my heart pounding, my breath coming in ragged gasps, waiting for something to happen. Something did. The darkness outside had changed. It was no longer the simple absence of light, the ordinary darkness of a power outage. It had become something else, something thick and almost tangible, pressing against the windows like fog, but blacker than any fog I had ever seen. And within that darkness, things were moving. I could not see them clearly. They were shapes, outlines, suggestions of forms that my mind could not quite assemble into coherent images. They moved through the streets of Glenfield with purpose, stopping at houses, lingering at doorways, moving on to the next building. I could not tell what they were doing, only that they were searching for something or someone. I backed away from the window and hid behind the front desk of town hall. I do not know how long I stayed there, crouched in the darkness, listening to sounds I could not identify and trying not to imagine what was making them. Hours, maybe, or minutes that felt like hours. Time had stopped making sense. At some point, the darkness began to lift. The shapes withdrew, fading into the black, like smoke dissipating in wind. The oppressive thickness of the night slowly gave way to ordinary darkness, and then, finally, to the grey light of approaching dawn. I remained hidden until the sun had fully risen. Only then did I find the courage to stand, to look out the window, to see what remained of Glenfield. The town looked almost normal. The buildings were intact. The streets were clean. The power had returned at some point during the night, and the streetlights glowed uselessly in the morning sun. But the town was empty. I walked through the streets calling out, checking businesses, knocking on doors. No one answered. No one appeared. The cars that had been parked on the streets were still there, but their owners were gone. Coffee cups sat on diner tables, still half full. Televisions played to empty living rooms. Dogs barked from backyards, abandoned by owners who had vanished in the night. I searched for hours, hoping to find someone, anyone, who could tell me what had happened. I found Sheriff Tate's patrol car parked in the middle of Main Street, the driver's door hanging open, the radio crackling with static. But there was no sign of Howard Tate himself. The people who had stayed in Glenfield, the ones who had not heeded the evacuation order, were gone. All of them. Taken by whatever had moved through the darkness, claimed by the shapes that had searched the streets. Only I remained, and I did not know why. Over the following days, the residents who had evacuated began to return. They came back to a town that looked exactly as they had left it, except for the absence of those who had stayed behind. They found me sitting on the steps of Town Hall, unable to explain what had happened, unable to describe what I had seen in any way that made sense. The official story, the one that the authorities eventually settled on, was that a gas leak had caused mass hallucinations, and the disappearances were the result of people wandering off in confusion. Search parties were organized. The surrounding forests and mountains were combed for any sign of the missing, but no one was found. Not a single body, not a single trace, not a single clue about where nearly 2,000 people had gone. I know the official story is wrong. I know what I saw, even if I cannot explain it. I know that something came to Glenfield that night, something that the alert had tried to warn us about, something that took everyone who did not flee. I do not know what sent the alert. I do not know how it knew what was coming or why it was dated from the future. I only know that it was right and that I should have listened, and that nearly 2,000 people might still be alive if everyone had taken it seriously. The guilt has consumed me since that night. As town administrator, I should have done more. I should have insisted on evacuation. I should have found a way to make people understand that the alert was real, that the threat was real, even if I could not explain what it was. Instead, I let myself be convinced it was a hoax. I let Sheriff Tate dismiss it. I let the county and state officials tell me there was nothing to worry about. I failed the people who trusted me, and now they are gone. The evacuation alert is still on my phone. It has never cleared, never updated, never changed. It still shows that impossible date, still warns of a threat that has already come and gone. I look at it every day, a reminder of what I should have done, what I failed to do, what cost nearly 2,000 people their lives, or whatever happened to them. I am not sure they are dead. I am not sure of anything anymore. I have spoken to every survivor, trying to understand what happened. Many of them described the same feeling, an inexplicable certainty that they needed to go, a compulsion that overrode their rational minds and sent them fleeing from their homes. Some said they dreamed of the darkness before it came. Others said they heard whispers in the silence, voices that told them to run. A few claimed they saw the shapes even before Wednesday night, glimpsed at the edge of vision, gone when they turned to look directly. The ones who left were the ones who listened to those warnings. The ones who stayed were the ones who dismissed them, who trusted logic and authority over instinct and fear. I have tried to find the source of the alert. I have traced it through every system I can access, followed its path through the emergency broadcast network. The alert appears to have originated from within Glenfield itself, from a source that does not exist in any official records. The closest I can determine, the alert was sent from a building that burned down in 1953, a building that housed the town's original emergency services, back when Glenfield was little more than a mining camp, a building where, according to old newspaper accounts, 7 emergency workers died in the fire while trying to warn residents of an approaching flood. I do not know what this means. I do not know if the ghosts of dead emergency workers sent an alert from beyond the grave, or if something else used their legacy as a channel. I only know that someone, something, tried to save Glenfield, tried to warn us, gave us a chance to escape, and we did not listen. 3 days ago, I received a new alert on my phone. Same format, same official language, same impossible origin. This one is not for Glenfield. It is for a town called Haverbrook, about 200 miles to the south. A small community, similar in size to Glenfield, nestled in its own quiet corner of the mountains. The alert is dated for next week. It warns of an imminent threat. It instructs residents to evacuate immediately. I have tried to contact authorities in Haverbrook, but they respond the same way the authorities in Glenfield responded. They dismiss it as a hoax, a glitch, a prank. They assure me that there is no threat, that they have everything under control, that I should not worry. I am sharing this account because I need someone to believe me. I need someone to take the warning seriously. I need someone to do what I failed to do, to save the people who cannot save themselves. I know how this sounds. I know that everything I have described seems impossible, seems like the ravings of a traumatized mind trying to make sense of senseless tragedy. I know that if I had read this account 3 weeks ago, I would have dismissed it the same way everyone dismissed the alert. But I am asking you to consider the possibility that I am telling the truth, to consider what you would do if you received an evacuation order with an impossible date, to consider whether you would listen to your instincts or trust the authorities who tell you nothing is wrong. I remember the feeling I had when the alert first arrived. That chill down my spine, that sense of wrongness I could not articulate. I believe now that this was my instinct trying to warn me, trying to tell me what my rational mind refused to accept. The alert was real, the threat was real, and I ignored both because they did not fit my understanding of how the world worked. I am asking you not to make the same mistake. I do not know what came to Glenfield that night. I do not know if it was supernatural or something else entirely. I do not know where the missing people went, or whether they are still alive somewhere beyond human understanding. But I have a theory, one I share reluctantly because I know how it sounds. I believe that whatever took the people of Glenfield has been doing this for a long time, maybe forever, moving from place to place, community to community, harvesting people in the darkness while the rest of the world looks the other way. The disappearances get explained as gas leaks, mass hysteria, cult activity, anything that allows authorities to close the case and move on. And somewhere, something sends warnings, alerts that should not exist, dated from times that have not happened yet, trying to save whoever is willing to listen. I do not know what this something is, whether it is the ghosts of the emergency workers who died in 1953 or something else entirely. I only know that it is trying to help, and that most people are too rational, too skeptical, too trusting of authority to accept help when it comes. If you receive an alert that does not make sense, an evacuation order with an impossible date, a warning from a source that should not exist, do not dismiss it. Do not wait for authorities to confirm it. Do not let anyone tell you it is a hoax or a glitch or a prank. Leave immediately. Take your family, your pets, whatever you can carry, and go. Do not wait for an explanation. Do not wait for permission. Do not stay to protect your property or prove that you are not afraid. The things that come in the darkness do not care about your courage or your skepticism. They only care about whether you are there when they arrive. I am still in Glenfield, still living in the same house on the edge of town. I have not left because I feel I owe it to the missing to stay, to bear witness, to remember what happened, even if no one else will. But I keep a bag packed by my door. I keep my car fueled and ready. And if I ever receive another alert for Glenfield or anywhere else, I will not hesitate. I will run. And I hope whoever is reading this, that you will run too. The alert is still on my phone. It has been there for 3 weeks now. That impossible date staring at me every time I check the screen. I have tried deleting it, tried factory resetting the phone, tried everything I can think of. It will not go away. I think it is meant to stay. I think it is meant to remind me, to make sure I never forget what happened, what I failed to prevent, what is still out there waiting for its next meal. If you are reading this, please remember Glenfield. Please remember the people who disappeared. Please remember that the warning was real, even if it came from an impossible source. And if you ever receive an alert that does not make sense, dated from tomorrow or next week, or a time that has not happened yet, please do not make the same mistake we did. Listen to the warning and run.